Welcome everybody. We are so excited to have you today and talk about how hiring virtual staffs can revolutionize your firm. I am Paul Wright. I am Director of Strategic Accounts here with Legalsoft. After I got tattoos, the court said, don't practice here anymore. So I found my way working with Legalsoft, helping lawyers grow and expand their practice. Today on our panelists, we have some great guests. We have our CEO, Hamid Kohan. So I will let him introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Paul. Thank you. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. We appreciate the participation to this event we have today. We have a lot of great people on board and I hope we have a lot of good questions and we'll pass it on.
Awesome. And then we also have Nathan with us. Nathan, introduce yourself. Oh, you're on mute, buddy.
Perfect. It's a Friday.
Yeah.
My name is Nathan, Vice President of Operations here at Legalsoft. I've successfully helped place over 1,000 virtual staff from all size firms. So we're excited to dive into this, Paul, and talk about some of the highlights and lowlights of virtual staffing and how it can actually help revolutionize the law firms.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hamid, let's get started with, can you share briefly how Legalsoft started?
Well, it was a great event, actually, by looking into the law firms and understanding the need of the law practices of technology and resources, and especially the virtual everything, virtual staffing, virtual marketing. Essentially, we're figuring out that we don't need to have 20 people sitting in the firm trying to practice the law, where we should only take about 3 or 4 legal professionals to do the same thing and be able to outsource anything from social media management to lead generation, client retention, and also doing some of the preliminary law practice requirement, which is a client intake, document collection, case management, which all of them now can be outsourced. And some of the greatest, largest firms nationwide have done this thing very successfully and has shown great results. And we can talk about how they succeeded. And people always ask, what do the big boys do? Well, they find ways to increase the volume of the business by reducing the cost so they can take the money and put it right back into the practice. So to grow it even farther and make it more challenging for the solo practitioners to compete. But with the virtual everything, the smallest solo practitioners can actually compete with the large practices.
Yeah, that is what is exciting about it. And we are definitely going to touch on several of those points today. Let's go over the agenda of what we're going to cover so we are all on the same page. We are going to go over what you need to know or how to identify when is a good time to hire virtual assistants. And then we're going to share some of our success stories, both of small firms and medium-sized firms, to really show you that what Hamid just said, this applies to everyone and it evens the playing field. And then we'll talk about just kind of easy steps to get in there that you can start next week to start scaling your firm. If you guys have questions, drop them in the chat. We have a question and answer portion, so we'll be sure to get there. And then while you're also in the chat, be sure to tell us where you're from. We love learning about what part of the country you're in and what practice area you're in. So be sure to do that so everyone can see. We're going to start off with a poll. So asking everybody in the room, what is the firm's highest monthly expense? I love this part of seeing it just fly. So great. Okay. All right, Nathan, what do you think of the numbers? Is that surprising or expected?
This is expected. I mean, I see a lot of clients. If our clients are here, the payroll will probably be a little bit less for them. So I think payroll is always, getting one of the highest ones. A lot of firms are actually, the office leases I'm a little bit surprised about. A lot of firms are actually able to work a lot more virtually. You hear every day, I know Hamid's coming out of the book and Sam Eli's coming out of the book about having that virtual law from the virtual office. Hopefully that also can help bring down a couple of the office costs.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
Paul, sorry, Paul, one of the big issue about the payroll is not really just the cost of the payroll, is the availability of the right resources who are committed and grateful to work and be are reasonably paid. I think there are so many several challenges other than just the cost of the payroll, is to be able to expand the resources and have them come to the office, do a full-time job, and stay competitive, because the rates have gone up dramatically. Every single firm that I work with, the first number one challenge that they have for their growth and be able to turn the cases over and basically, operate is been availability of qualified resources that are reasonably paid. So in some of the firms, I wish the cost of the payroll was higher. They can't find enough people to hire anyway. So.
Yeah, I think, Hamid, what is so great about that is that there's this interplay between start thinking more about the other variables, that it is not just the physical number, but it is the quality of the talent that you're paying for, that seeking outside of America's borders and within your own city, what type of talent acquisition is out there. Nathan, so going into indicators, when should a busy lawyer start thinking about hiring virtual assistants?
Yeah, I mean, for us in our company, there's really no bad time to hire a virtual assistant. I think a lot of the key factors that we're looking for hiring a virtual assistant, our clients looking to hire virtual assistants, hit on to the point that Hamid just made. Finding staff locally and the retention of local staff is getting harder and harder. So it's important to supplement your local staff with virtual staff to help them with the workload and to offboard a lot of the mundane, repetitive tasks. A lot of times we have high value in-house staff collecting documents or following up with clients, when a lot of that can pass to virtual staff. So I think the main factors, some of the main reasons to hire virtual staff, and the indicators, is the firm is growing and they're experiencing a lot of growth and they have to do a lot of hiring. They should save that local staff for very crucial key positions in their firm and supplement them with virtual staff to find the right team members that they need. They can have the virtual staff if they're feel like that their team is wasting their time on tasks that they shouldn't be doing, having them come in and actually help with those. And then a lot of tasks where you don't need a license to actually do that task, we think you should always outsource that to a virtual staff member.
Right.
We're really pushing the envelope with what virtual staff can do.
Yeah, my answer is even simpler than that. As soon as you find yourself spending time doing something that it's not really practicing law or lawyering, that's the time to hire some virtual staff, because a lot of people that just get into the habit of doing everything that the business needs to do to run, and they found out now they're doing a lot more than that, than they're actually practicing the law and being able to professionally expand and grow their practice, instead of trying to do things that a very inexpensive virtual staff can do.
Yeah, I love that, Hamid, that it brings up such a good point too, in the sense that it probably detracts, or do you feel like that detracts from even the quality of care that the lawyer should be giving a case when they're spending time doing these mundane weekly tasks just to run a business?
Yes.
So, and Hamid, if you can, that kind of ties into, if you're a first-time law firm, never worked with virtual assistants, what type of task or batch of work do you always think that they should start with? Where's the great starting point?
Essentially, I always have them make a list of things that they do during the day or they wish they had time to do. Make a complete wish list and a task list. And then you identify for yourself that there's a tons of items in that list that you shouldn't really be doing, because this is something that at $10 an hour the staff can do. And you start with that, and then you start transferring all of those responsibilities and tasks to that staff, so you can actually focus on two major things about your practice area that you are practicing in, and also creating a referral network for yourself and a connection to all other firms and colleagues on LinkedIn, on social media, and everybody, that expands your horizon, increases your referral networks and connection, and increases your experience about what's going on in your practice area elsewhere. Instead of trying to, doing some mundane work within the practice, which is, again, the $10 an hour, everything that you're doing in that list that a $10 an hour person can do, it basically translates to you're paying yourself $10 an hour. Is really, you just hired yourself at $10 to do those work.
Right. That's a great way.
And you turn around and you basically say my time worth $300 an hour, but I spend half of my day doing a $10 an hour work, which is a total off balance
of what the thing. Yeah. Nathan, that sounds like, or have you heard, it sounds like it could be addictive to an attorney once they figure out how to start delegating and offshoring. Have you had any of your clients come back and share that once they figured out how to do it, they couldn't stop?
Yeah, I mean, we started hearing attorneys, every time they just wake up, take a shower, and they come up with 3 different alternative ways of using virtual staff. Any idea that they come up with, like for instance, we have attorneys who get virtual staff in different countries just to rewrite their entire website for SEO content in different languages, or building referral networks, or bookkeeping, managing collections of fees, helping them manage their calendar. So we're seeing firms just really seeing a huge ROI with having these virtual staff come in and actually help manage projects. I mean, it's additional staff, 40 hours a week that is in your office that is super competent, that can really push your projects forward.
I think that's a great answer. Hamid, I'm interested to know also, in a firm that is wanting to actually be strategic, like let's say they've got the foundation going, now they want to really get strategic growth. Not all virtual assistants maybe need to be hired 12 months out of the year. Do you have any examples of how maybe there's kind of like sprint hiring for 2 months or 3 months, and what kind of stuff a virtual assistant could do in that kind of sprint?
Sure, absolutely. One of those sprints that you mentioned is like a lot of the PI firms, they often fall behind on doing the demands. Because the medical records haven't been collected and the demands are piling up, and they don't have a full-time person doing the demand. So we have a project like that where we can have one of our demand writers, which can pretty much produce 20, 30, 40 demands in the month, fully executed, mails send out, to just catch up. Because if you don't send those demands out, you're never going to get the money in. If you don't get the money in, you're going to struggle. So you can basically catch up with all your demands in a month or 2, and then if you have more needs, you do that. Or the referral network creation. We have virtual staff who are trained to build your referral network very systematically through LinkedIn and other sources, connecting you to thousands of attorneys in your state and in different, or your practice type, to make that connection, set up those meetings for you to introduce yourself and build that relationship that everybody wishes they do. Right when they pass the bar, get out of school, they think they're going to do that. Then they get busy with everything else and they never get it done, even the people who've been practicing for 20 years. So you get a virtual assistant. I did that for myself, so I'm probably one of the best customers of it. I increased my LinkedIn from 300 contacts to about 3,000. But just having one of the virtual staff connecting me to every attorney that is out there that I can connect with. And now I can message them, I can search them, I can work with them. So that would be some of the things. And even on the marketing side, we have a VA marketing where you always wish that you updated your website, you updated your social media, you got yourself registered on all these directory listings that are out there. And did a client retention, send the email to all your former clients and thanking them for their business. All these little things that is always on somebody's to-do list. You get a virtual staff for 2 or 3 months, very minimum cost, is a few $1,000s for the whole 3 months, and they catch up everything for you. So at least you're not 5 years behind on cleaning up your online presence.
Yeah, no, and I think that it segues into, because, when you start talking about what someone can do, it starts feeling too good to be true. And so, Nathan, let's talk about Matthew as one of our clients, and how, the talent that you are able to get really does allow you to do this wish list that Hamid was touching on. Everyone has these ideas of what they want for their business, and virtual assistants opens the door to getting all of that stuff done. So share with us what you've observed when working with Matthew.
Yeah, I think Hamid remembers the day we actually met Matthew. Matthew's a new personal injury firm looking to start his practice. But whenever he came in to speak with Hamid told him how much it would really cost to actually start his PI firm, and all the staff and things that he would need. And we saw that, when Matthew first started, he was spending a lot of his time just doing intake, following up with emails, trying to collect documents from their clients. I wasn't doing too much lawyering. As Hamid said, he was spending his time doing $10 an hour tasks. And because of that, the cases were delayed in getting settled. They weren't getting records back. There was no one following up with the clients quick enough. And so what we started to do with him was break down his firm and how he can actually implement virtual staff at $10 an hour, so he can actually focus on actually being the lawyer. So with Matthew, we first started off with taking intake and intake follow-up off his hands. And attorneys don't do the best intake. Their time is too valuable. With virtual staff, we train them on how to do intake, how to follow up with your leads, ensuring that the virtual staff will follow up with your leads 8 times before giving up. They'll call the leads during business hours, after business hours, on the weekend. And with their virtual staff, offering a small incentive of like $25 or $50 for every new case sign up will really help push their conversion rates. I had a virtual staff actually tell me that he actually missed a date. He had a date scheduled, but he missed the date just so he can actually get a case signed up. And so a lot of times with virtual staff, it's important to have those incentives and see huge improvements in conversion rates once you pass that off.
Let me ask you, Nathan, when you talk about incentives like that, because for the audience who might not be familiar, because when you say $25, $50, I know from now that's a major bonus for some of these people. Can you translate kind of what you're talking about when you say a low cost incentive like that for a law firm, what that means to this employee?
Yeah, no, low cost incentive like that is, maybe equivalent to maybe a $300, $400 incentive for someone locally. But besides just that, I mean, the opportunities are, way more scarce overseas. So it's not like they have a lot of opportunities to make that kind of extra money where someone locally might be able to go and do Uber, Postmates a lot more freely. So this $50 goes, 5 to 8 times further than offering someone locally.
Yeah.
Paul, another point that there was a personal experience working with a lot of personal injury firms where we're doing the case review. When I asked them how many of your clients are still treating, and they said, I don't know. I'm like, okay, if you don't know, first of all, it is a gap in treatment, which is going to majorly affect the case, or the treatment is completed and you don't know, which means you're not proceeding to, record collection and settlement. So it's like, and I say, why don't you know? He says, well, I don't have time to find out from these people if they're stopped treating or they're still treating or whatever. I said, okay, let's get a VA for you. We're going to contact every client and update your database and say, are they still going to treatment or they stopped 3 months ago? The results were amazing.
Yeah.
It was just blow their mind. Where like whole lot of their client basically stopped treating several months ago. And they had no idea. And it created a panic within the organization trying to either get them back on treatment or move on to the settlement. So this is one of those tasks.
Yeah, I love that. And I wanted you to go back and touch on, Hamid, that a lot of lawyers will come from a place on this intake and almost what you're just sharing with about there's a gap in the data that they're collecting, but lawyers, I feel like, could say, you want me to turn over the sales, so to speak, and the case acquisition to a non-lawyer, and that feels scary. Can you touch on that, of why a shift in that system really is better?
Yeah, it's basically bring the whole practice area into a real-time environment. And the data is what brings you to real time. You need to know the status of everything in your practice, from the money you paid for the lead, all the way to how long it's taking you for, finishing up settling the case and completing the case. And this is all data driven. And sometimes they just don't have the time or resources to collect the right data or update the data. So using the virtual staffing to keep everything real time for your practice.
Yeah.
Paul, I think we have a question from Jean.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Jean. If you want to come on, turn on your camera and ask your question directly to Hamid and Nathan.
I think she's muted.
Yeah, I'm not sure she's able to ask the question via Zoom,
Okay.
but if you can, in the Q&A chat box is where you'll be able to ask any questions.
And Cheyenne, let me see if do you see the Q&A chat box when it pops up?
Yes, I do.
Oh, I see it right here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
got it. All right.
great. You can continue until she actually types in the
Yeah,
question.
here's Jean. Oh, she said she accidentally pressed it, but we did have Adriana's comment that hooked me up with the VA to build his or her referral network. So we definitely will get with you. On that, while we get some more questions, if anyone wants to do anything, Hamid, do you have a case, a real setting the stage for a lawyer that really was maybe a six-figure lawyer making good money and now is a millionaire, and how VAs really did that for them?
Yeah, we actually have many cases as such, especially in a few different areas like immigration, personal injury, consumer protection, like lemon law and so forth, where it really freed them up to be able to expand without worrying about finding the right people to help them expand, from the intake to case management, and be reasonably cost. Like right now, and the cost of the case manager in Los Angeles is almost $90,000 a year. Okay, and plus the benefits, plus the parking, plus all the taxes and so forth, the additions to that. So a lot of people, when they want to spend more money to get more clients and so forth, they think about, okay, now I need to hire 3 of these people. That's $300K itself plus benefit. If I find the right person, that's a big if.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they pay recruiters $20,000, $30,000 fees to just get that person, so they can pay them $100,000. Versus calling us. We have a law firm in Southern California, is a PI firm, who essentially adds 2 or 3 virtual staff a month, and they're they're up to 42 virtual staff in one practice type firm, which is personal injury. So they don't have to worry about that one piece. So what happens, they just expand out and they start focusing on growing the practice instead of trying to staff the practice.
It's amazing. And so Nathan, you would echo that this is the everyday lawyer. It's not special. It doesn't take several $100,000 in capital. It is your everyday lawyer can do this.
Exactly. This is your everyday lawyer that can do this. We even have some firms who, anyone who's in the legal field are getting virtual staff to help them.
I love that.
Yeah.
William
have
asked a question about if we have any examples about estate planning firms. Nathan, do you have any experience that you could share with working with an estate planning firm?
Yeah, but I know actually Hamid, we just talked about it. He has a couple that he's working with right now about it.
Oh, great.
Yeah, actually, and estate planning has been one of the focuses, because it's one of those areas where collection of information is a big part of the process. You can't create estate planning without having tons of information about their assets, their income, their the stock portfolio, everything that they need to have everything. And collecting that from clients is always very tedious work, which is a virtual staffing can do that perfectly. And the second thing is that being able to have a virtual staff to contact everybody who you did the estate planning for. Estate planning, in my mind, it lasts as average of 2 or 3 years. And after that, it's kind of obsolete because people's life changes. And the people who need estate planning are the people who actually have assets and income and so forth. So having somebody contacting all of my former clients and asking them, has anything changed in your financial portfolio? Which is, I think 65% of the time is yes. Okay, we need to come back in, so I need to adjust and modify your estate planning. So that's the number one use of the VA for estate planning. The second way of using estate planning is that a big majority of the new clients are generated by referrals, like accountants and CPAs and financial plannings and financial representatives and so forth. So again, building up, connecting with all of these sources to say, I'm here for your client and appreciate and a referral, it builds a huge referral network.
I love that. And I just want, for everyone in the room, I just want to point out something that is what makes Hamid such an amazing mentor for lawyers. If you didn't catch this, he just created 2 revenue streams for an estate planning firm. I have never known an estate planning lawyer to go back and systematically call to do re-edits to a will. You have an entire client list that every year you're doing that. That is an entire revenue stream. That is the brilliance of when you choose to work with Hamid at Legalsoft. Jamal, let's get to your question. And this is interesting. So he's asking criminal law, and this goes to any practice area that really, at the end of the day, the client does want to kind of hear the strategy of the lawyer before signing a retainer agreement. Nathan and Hamid, how does the VA and the intake, because you can't, like you all are saying, you can't spend an hour with every client, that's inefficient. How does it in that situation work?
Okay, with the criminal law, again, is a lot of client interaction, a lot of client information gathering. And if you're doing criminal law is a very wide practice area. It starts anything from a DUI all the way to serious criminal, offense. So to not knowing exactly which, type of a criminal practice he has, but a lot of the client-facing, client interaction, information collection, document collection, you file a lot of stuff with the court, a lot of, discovery and so forth. Every single part that I spoke about is the VA work. If you're spending doing that again, you're office admin. You're not lawyering. You're supposed to actually spend your time researching the case, researching the case types, and working on your depositions or things like that, but you're collecting documents.
Yeah, that is, and in that sense, that's a lot of where when you have a district attorney's office that they almost have, I won't say infinite resources, but because it is a state-run agency, they have enough to hire those admins and outwork the case. And so this kind of can even the playing field with that.
Right.
And Jamal, I think, for doing the intake for your criminal defense firm, a lot of times I had a client actually tell me the other day that, whenever a virtual staff answers the call first, it helps your firm seem more important. It helps you feel more important. So they're going to do the first round and say, hey, I want to connect you with attorney Jamal right away. When you first get this information from you, filter it and prepare it for them so your call goes way smoother. So a lot of times you can leverage it that way as well, to where your time is very valuable. So you got to first filter the calls and then set up a call for you directly.
Yeah, and so we've got if you got any other questions, we've got our question and answer section coming up. I want to transition. Nathan, talk about some of the different types of assistants that are out there, and how someone can kind of pick and choose. Hiring virtual assistants is a hot trend right now in the legal industry. And I think that it would be helpful for people to know what types are out there And how do you trust, how there's so many competition. How do you trust a company?
Yeah, so for hiring virtual assistants, a lot of the virtual assistants, and why the virtual assistants are so hot in particular is because a lot of this staff, they come from 5 to 8 years of experience working in the corporate work environments. They're trained by huge Fortune 500 companies, and training that we'll never really be able to do. So these are prepared agents, and whenever with our filtering system, we do anywhere between 60 to 100 interviews a day, talking to candidates. About 10% of those get filtered. And through our filtering system, we're able to identify if the staff is more qualified for a sales intake position, for more mundane, repetitive position, like collecting records, or if they have more of a legal background or creative background, and they're more interested in actually client-facing, case management, and really helping the attorney with new tasks on a daily basis. And for really picking the right type of virtual assistant company, there's a lot of companies out there, but the value that Legalsoft brings to hiring virtual staff is first the huge recruitment team. We put a lot of time in recruitment, and before you even meet the staff, they go through our own training program, and we filter them out in that training program based on the ones who take the job seriously, who actually learn the program, and actually get certified by our training team that they're a certified legal assistant. And then once
I'm sorry to interrupt. One of the also big major differentiation is that we are one of the only virtual staffing company in this market who actually has several trained, licensed, practicing attorneys as a full-time staff. So that's a big differentiator because we understand we come from the practice of law. We have on board, licensing attorneys who are going to help on training and setting up the process with our VAs, and that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I think that so Nathan, if you can kind of go through at our VAs and how we classify them and kind of the different skill set that puts them in the different classifications.
Yeah, so we have a group of attorneys first. These are trained, or let's start with these. We have your intake specialists who are trained, who are compassionate, who are empathetic, and who have training in client follow-up and lead management. And they're driven and hungry by money. They want that incentive, they want to get that sign up, and they have that in them to actually do some sales. And then you also have your legal assistant. So this is those mundane, repetitive tasks that you're doing in your firm, from collecting records, collecting documents, following up with clients, the treatment facility. And you can break this up to as specific as you like. We have one firm who has one virtual staff that just only sends letters of representation or only collects property damage. A legal assistant can help you with those simple repetitive tasks and build a firm in a nice machine manner.
Yeah, let's do another poll with the audience. So on average, the compensation of law firm employees increases by how much % a year? So Cheyenne, you're getting that up for them?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Hamid, for
Well,
you,
we have a question from Kenneth Blaine also.
Yeah, so if you want Hamid after the poll, he was wanting us to touch on our pricing structure.
Sure.
And so I think that'll be a great segue after this because
Sure.
it helps tie it in.
Yeah. 257.
All right.
Yeah, Hamid, talk about the compensation increase. Are we right? Or so it seems like 5% and 11% is
So the
what
correct,
I'm thinking.
yeah, so the correct answer is actually 16%, according to law.com.
Wow.
Well, I guess nobody wants to give that high of an increase to any of the staff, and I agree, because at least in the most of the metropolitan areas like LA and New York and so forth, the staff are pretty overpaid when you compare them to the outcomes of those staff, and obviously comparing it with the virtual staffing, it makes it totally outrageous.
Yeah. So Hamid, when you talk in comparing that, the increase of a law firm of an American team's salary, that it has to kind of, especially in a post-COVID world, has to be high for retention and different things like that. How of what we're seeing with the Great Resignation, how does that relate with building a virtual team?
The virtual team pricing is usually pretty set, and it definitely doesn't have whatever 11 or 16% annual increases factored in. So I don't know if you want me to explore some of the pricing models that I've seen and some of the other positions that we do, provide that is above and beyond the intake or document collections. We have case managers, demand writers, paralegals, all kind of a different trained legal virtual staffing, and the pricing is usually starts about 2,000 a month. That is a fixed cost situation, something in that range, depending to the position. But I think the average is like $2,200-$2,300 fixed cost a month for the full-time trained staff that are equipped to work for the firm with a communication system. They have a full access to a phone system. So essentially, a lot of people ask is that how am I going to have a virtual staff that can make calls or send emails or put data into my case management software? We have taken care of all of that, and all of them is built in. So it's a sort of a one-stop shop. When you get one of our virtual staff, we integrate them into your practice real quickly, almost like if they were sitting right next to you.
And Hamid and Nathan, you guys have traveled the country now and have been at a lot of conferences for lots of different practice areas. And so there are virtual staffing agencies and the competition, and on Facebook and Instagram, I've seen it for as low as $3-4, an hour, and they charge that. Speak to, or is that kind of false? Are there hidden costs for when talking about how do you know which company is really going to give you a virtual assistant at the talent level that you're expecting and that we're talking about? Nathan, what have you experienced with that?
Yeah, so a lot of times, I think one of the biggest things and most important things for having virtual staff is a lot of times their retention. But you got to have virtual staff who want to stay with you, who go through your training process and want to stay with you for as long as possible. A lot of the virtual staffing companies out there who have much lower margins, they kind of just get a staff and give it to you. There's not much training involved, management involved, benefits involved, or having trained attorneys full-time in our staff to actually help train and guide these virtual assistants within the firm. And then we also come with our strategic accounts team. So whenever you're trying to build out a firm, build out an intake team, we help you guys place the agents, train the agents, and ongoingly support to make sure that the agents are successful as possible. We're seeing retention rates at 2 years plus now since we've been doing this.
Also, one of the biggest proof of the expertise and the care that we put into our agents and training them, certifying them, giving them benefits and so forth. And I think the result that we have, which with our average number of VAs per firm is about 3.5 VAs. But the half is kind of funny. But it's about 3.5 VAs per law firm, which basically means they had such amazing experience with the first one that they got the second one. And they had such amazing experience with the second one that they have the third one. So it really shows you that it does work and is successful, and that's how they're growing. If our average per law firm was 1 or 1.5, then you would be worried about maybe this is working, maybe this is not. And if I have a law firm, one of the largest law firms in California, with having 42 agents, or the other one has 38 agents, that itself proved that it works. Because if they didn't, they're not crazy to throw their money, or the agents would not last long enough, or they were not, competent enough. They wouldn't add so many people.
I think that that's a great point. And it also is that most of our virtual assistants and law firms have transitioned to full time, because it's important to remember that these individuals are looking for full-time work in their home the same way that we are. And so if you're with a staffing agency that just wants to sell part-time, your retention is going to be a major problem. People can't live on part-time work. And so that's big, that we're here to try to help people make sure that they're getting a full-time dedicated person for their firm. Have you guys seen that as an issue with any of the competition?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because they essentially want to just place an agent and go away. We want to actually, because we have many other services for the law firms that includes expansion and the growth. I mean, you yourself work with a lot of firms to set them up from scratch and grow them. So we're looking at the longevity of the relationship by providing them a lot of marketing resources, staffing resources, online presence, lead generation, lead management, variety of different things. So we're not looking to just place an agent and run. It's like we want to be very integrated part of your practice for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, that is great. Let's get into, we've got some questions. And so what about is that there is the ethical considerations of using virtual assistants, specifically about how have we seen law firms deal with the confidentiality issues or making sure that they're not giving legal advice?
Sure. We basically do the same level, if more, than what you do by hiring your own local staff. I mean, every time I call Bank of America, Chase Bank, American Express, Wells Fargo, I'm talking to somebody overseas. I don't think I've hit a local person for the past 2 years. And they have more access to my stuff than anybody else. They have my social security, they have all my bank account information, my credit card information. They pretty much control my credit score, and they're doing it all remotely. So it's the same challenge, and we do the same as they do. We have a lot of controls in place. We manage the desktop of our agents. We take screenshots of their screen every 15 minutes. We record their calls. We give them a full exposure that you can't even do with somebody locally in your office. So we're taking a lot of measures. We even manage and check the URLs that they are browsing for security, safety, and also making sure that they're working full-time for the practice.
Yeah, I think, and Nathan, let me ask you this. Aside from there are physical IT things through VPNs and logins that can add added security, but I feel like sometimes when people think about VAs, they forget that it's not a set and forget. There is performance management. So talk about how it is confidentiality and not giving legal advice. Law firms, this is a team member. How do they manage them? How do you fold them in?
Yeah, so a lot of times, just like we're on the Zoom right now, what we see is, I went into one of our firms once, and on every single computer, they had one monitor attached on top of the monitor from the staff member. And the monitor on top of the staff member was one virtual staff working. This firm had like 40 of these laid out. And that virtual staff above was just on mute and on Zoom, sharing their screen the entire day. So if any questions came up where that virtual staff didn't know an answer, or they were stuck on a project, stuck in a certain situation, the virtual staff can go on and off mute, just ask the questions or show the question on the screen, or very easily with the voice over IP system, transfer that call to local staff, to have a seamless integration or seamless pathing to make sure you get the question answered as soon as possible.
I love that. And William, after I ask this question, if you have a follow-up, feel free to unmute yourself and ask any follow-up questions. But William is specifically asking, do we have any case management software that we love to endorse when it comes to using virtual assistants?
A lot of that depends on the type of the practice. I believe that there are separate different practices are matched better with the different case management software. So if you can tell me what is the practice type, I can better advise.
Let me ask. So Cheyenne just told me that they're not able to unmute, but in the past they had. So William, if you want to share your practice area, I can let Hamid know. And then if anyone else has other questions, please do that. Oh, we've got one here. Oh, estate planning was William's, Hamid.
Estate planning is something like Clio is a good, well-diversified platform with a lot of front ends that helps do the client relationship management. So I would suggest for estate planning, Clio would be a good good platform.
Yeah, I agree. Nathan, this goes kind of a direct question to what your Amazon Echo right behind you. So Vince is asking that he needs direct communication with his assistant. He can't just rely on uploading a task to a queue and waiting for it to be done. So how are some law firms bridging that gap, the real time?
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways, and Paul touched on the Amazon Echo project. We actually are launching that for all of our virtual staff currently. But behind me is an Amazon Alexa. You can get these for like $50 online. With a couple of clicks, I can just swipe down, click on the virtual staff I want to speak with, and within probably 5 seconds, I can see the virtual staff and they can see me during working hours, and we're immediately talking. It's not a dialer. I don't dial them. Just within a couple of seconds, we're doing face-to-face communication or talking or screen sharing. Another great way is the Zoom thing we talked about earlier. Just having your staff on Zoom with you the entire day, so you communicate with them right away when things come up. Yeah, if you need any more advice on that, we probably have heard it all and done it all. I'd love to talk to you more about that.
Yeah, I'd love, Hamid, as we kind of get towards the end, it seems like some of it is casting the vision that talk about how this virtual assistant is a team member, the same as the paralegal that's sitting outside of your office, and shouldn't be thought of any different.
Yeah, absolutely. It is you're actually better connected because they feel, since they're not sitting right next to you, they need to be able to do a lot more communication, a lot more often communication, and they're on your screen on the Zoom if you want them for 8 hours a day. My assistant is on my phone, my email, on my Zoom, on my calls. I believe she's a lot more connected to my day than if I had somebody in my office doing it full time.
Yeah. So let's talk about, Nathan, what are the 3 easy steps? How does someone get started?
Sorry, before we get to there was one more question. I know we talked about it, but it was from Kenneth saying, please explain the pricing options for solo PI firms. Nathan, I know Hamid already discussed kind of the broad pricing of it, but do you want to go a little bit more in depth about how the pricing works, especially for solo PI firms?
Yeah. So for the solo PI for all firms, our pricing is pretty standard, depending on the position that you're looking for. We have co-worker groups. We have Spanish-speaking staff and native English-speaking staff. The prices will range anywhere between $1,900 up to about $2,300. We have some experienced attorneys who have a lot more experience, maybe a little bit higher than that. But all of your virtual staff, especially the attorneys, will be below $3,000. But a full-time staff that you'll be looking for, the legal assistant, will probably cost you around $2,000, and that includes their health insurance, perfect attendance bonus. We send you a survey, you give them a 5-star, another bonus, 2 levels of management for their attendance, foreign currency transfers. All of that is baked in there. You have no additional fees for having a full-time employee besides that about $2,000 a month cost.
That is That's great. Amelia, if you can hear me, type your question in the chat. I saw that your hand was raised. And then Lynette had a question about do virtual assistants subscribe to legal assistant confidentiality commitments? Hamid, do you want to talk about how law firms might handle confidentiality agreements within their placed VAs?
Sure, absolutely. They do that. They comply with the same process and the same ethics. And if it makes anybody even feel better, we do have all type of insurances as a company to make sure everything is complied with. And thank God we never had an issue with the confidentiality or a breach of confidentiality. And if you like the VAs to sign any kind of agreement, they'd be happy to do so.
Yeah.
Thank you. I had another question. Are most of the virtual assistants offshore?
Yes, they're all offshore, but in a variety of different countries. We have a base in 7 countries where we recruit, screen, train, onboard, and manage these virtual staff. If they are bilingual, especially, that's on high demand with the Spanish-speaking virtual staffing. A lot of them come from South America, like Ecuador, Dominican Republic, Colombia, those places.
Oh, okay, cool.
And Jesse was asking about family law. Jesse, this is the system and virtual assistants, they fold into any practice area. So if you have a specific question, because you were stating that you hadn't heard anything regarding family law, are you, if you unmute and ask or type what specifics you have about family law, but we service and have other family law attorneys that are hiring and using virtual assistants the same as any other practice area.
Okay, thanks. That was just, that was really my question. I was wondering if the system in place was going to be capable of being utilized in the family law practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in family law, you have a lot of client interaction, especially if there is a custody situation or complete changes in the financials or the court orders and so forth. There's a lot of client-facing situations and collecting new information from the client, which usually consumes a lot of time with the attorney to arrange those, or a whole lot of court appearances for the motions and so forth. All of this scheduling, having the documentations ready, collected the documentation, getting things signed up, ready to go.
Yeah, that's a great question. And William, you absolutely do have a chance to interview. Nathan, do you want to set out our interview process of how attorneys, our selection process, and how attorneys are able to choose the particular virtual assistant?
Yeah, no, William, we definitely understand that. You do want to meet your candidate, make sure that you're okay with their accent, you're okay with how they speak, their English writing. We filter that pretty aggressively ourselves. And so, to get started, we have it here. It's 3 easy steps. You'll talk to one of our account managers or account executives, and they'll do a consultation with you and really identify what you're looking for in the virtual staff. We'll identify your practice area, your case manager software, what you guys are really looking for. And they'll go and meet and talk to our sourcing team and recruitment team and find you guys a couple potential candidates. And once we find those candidates, we'll set up a call for your team to meet these candidates. And we'll actually conduct the interview and then give you guys an opportunity to ask any questions you guys have. And once you complete that interview, one of our client success managers will set up a call with you and get a list of qualifications, a list of training programs that you guys need. And we'll make sure that their email works, their phone system works, and everything works fully. So they're fully integrated with your firm by the time they start. And this entire process from the day that you request a virtual assistant to them starting takes about 7 to 10 days.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think that there is, as someone is putting in the chat for everybody, if you're interested in kind of diving in and having a demonstration and talking with us more about hiring virtual assistants, we're going to shoot a link over for you, how you can book that appointment. And then I think that the best way to introduce people to VAs is to kind of see and meet them. So we've got a short video that we can play to show you guys our talent.
sorry, Paul, before you move on,
Yeah.
there's two more questions that we got. The first one was from Adrianos, and I believe Nathan would be able to answer it. He said, do you have any Brazilian or Portuguese speaking VAs? It turns out that I'm one of the only personal injury attorneys in California who speaks Portuguese, and I'm looking to dominate this market.
Absolutely. We definitely have Portuguese speaking candidates. When you talk to our team, let them know, and they'll start the recruitment process, make sure we have them available, depending on if you need them to be an intake, if you're looking for attorney to help with legal writing, or just general case management. Just let our team know, we can definitely help you get sourced.
Perfect. And then the second question was from Melissa, and she said, the ability to keep rates low for VAs is based on VAs as independent contractors, and thereby are required no benefits required. So that was her question. She goes, if they were as independent contractors, does that mean no benefits are required for them?
I can answer that. Actually, there is no independent contractor with you because they come through us, and you get an invoice once a month with all the timesheets and all the, basically showing that they worked full time, and you're paying Legalsoft on as an outsourced services. So you don't even have to worry about the 1099 of the virtual staff. And we do provide benefits for our virtual staff. So we do have bonuses. We actually celebrate their birthdays every year. We give them a high-speed Wi-Fi. We give them health insurance, but everything is on our system. You don't have to worry about any of those processes, as you're just getting an outsourced invoice from Legalsoft on the monthly basis.
And then here was the link that Paul was talking about. If you guys were interested in booking a call and getting to interview some VAs for your firm, I'm going to send the link in the chat right now.
Yeah, that's great. And then Cheyenne, is it PJ or that is going to play the video for everybody? Awesome.
Here at Legalsoft, we hire talent from all over the world. We're going to introduce you to some of our staff now.
Hi, this is Henry.
This is Valeria Castillo.
I'm Gennaro.
I'm Paula.
I've been working in the call center industry for about 10 years now.
I am an accountant. I went to the UCA, which is one of the best universities here in my country.
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Electrical Engineering.
Where I'm about a year and a half graduated from university.
Working for Legalsoft Solutions is really fun and interactive. It really has helped me to optimize my time.
I have the freedom and chance to work from anywhere.
It has provided me the professional path that I was looking for.
Another reason why I love to work for Legalsoft Solution is because it gives me the chance to spend time with my husband just driving around.
Well, you guys, go ahead, Nathan. Yeah. Nathan, were you going to say something?
Oh, I don't think that was me.
Oh, I just heard something. Well, I love that video. I think it shows you guys that we have a great system. We've got a great team of talents, and we are here to share with you. I thank you so much for coming and listening. Hamid and Nathan, thank you for the information. And we hope that you guys got a lot out of this. And please book a meeting to talk more.
And Paul, do you want to talk about the raffle that we have?
Absolutely. We, Nathan and Hamid, have generously decided that on Monday in our Instagram Live, we are going to do a drawing for one of the participants today to get a free VA for a full month. And so be sure to listen. You are all entered by registering, and we will reach out and pull a winner and get you set up with a VA.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
all.